listening to your last video. It's pretty interesting. Honestly, man, I feel like you covered everything. I mean, you did an episode breakdown, so of course you did. What to talk about? Yeah, I've got it pulled up.
Mine's
Hold on.
working.
I might have messed my mic up. Give me just a second before you pull this in.
Oh, we're already in, baby. It's too late.
No, I think I hit hit the one to hook it up to my system, my PlayStation.
Oh, yeah? Well, I forgot to do my starting soon panel, and that's fine.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, I forgot to do it. Or I think I forgot to do it. I'm all disorganized. I was on the phone with my sister, and she was like talking and talking, and I love her to death. And I was like, I have a stream in like 10 minutes, and she was like, oh, cool. And then she just kept talking.
Look
Like,
at you go, man.
I'm not.
Oh, look at the introduction, my man.
Yes. For anybody that watches
I do
this,
have to say that's a flattering picture of myself right there.
that's what you look like. That's
Uh,
I've seen you in
it's a
person.
it's a burden that I carry.
It is.
Uh, some of us got to do it, you know.
It is. I think one year for Christmas I'm gonna get you a flight jacket to wear.
I'll just trim off the goatee and go straight mustache. Maybe that's the move.
Maybe. It might be.
We shall see.
Yeah.
All right, man. I'm excited to jump in. I think this episode was not one of the heavy hitters, if I'm being completely honest. But I thought it had a lot of interesting points. Um, I really liked the video that you did yesterday on it.
Thank
So
you.
I'm excited to get jumped in, man.
Well, we're already live.
Yeah,
Everybody that gets to YouTube will be able to hear you immediately.
good on them.
Yeah. So we can start wherever you want. I just kind of skimmed through the episode again and look for some things to try to give us a little visual aid, I guess.
Yeah.
And I think I'm just gonna stop this music because it is in my ear and I can't think straight.
Some of those songs are nice. I do have to say, there's a couple in there that I'm like, I don't know why those would be in the playlist. Like a
It's
phone. There's like one that's a phone ringing.
Yeah. Well,
I'm like,
it's from a game, so it's like that guy that I
gotcha.
told you
That
about,
makes
that
sense.
pirate
Hmm.
software. It's from his whole, like, it's his 3 hour original soundtrack. So there's like everything in there. There's combat music, there's chill music, there's all kinds of stuff.
Gotcha.
And
Well, yeah, I think we could talk about the episode. I think we could just start kind of like you did, just break it down in the the order of events, and then I've got a couple points at the end, some questions I got left with that I'd like to maybe throw out there. I don't know if we can discuss the answers, but just little nuggets to think on.
I think since it's the two of us talking, that we can just kind of stay on topic with the episode itself, but we can kind of talk about like some of the implications of what we're seeing and what we watched, and some of the I can, if you have a question specific to like why do you think they did it that way, I can kind of draw on that experience with the book, like the source material, to see like does, is there any particular reason why they did that? And the answer a lot of times is yes. Like the more I watch it and look at it from the perspective of like a divergent timeline, the more I feel better about the way the characters are done and the way the story is progressing. Like it is a different story, and I think they're doing a good job with it.
Yeah.
I have
Well,
a
the
I have a
quote
picture to
ran.
put up next to you.
Oh,
It's
is that Pepper? Is that my wife right there?
that's well, I mean, I think you were like channeling your inner caveman, knocked her out, and you know, just had to tell her what's going on.
Well, the quote ran, "I don't know shit, really." So
That's a lot of the feedback that I've heard from like other channels and
Mhm.
like people that like well-known authors that are familiar with the body of work but don't read it like religiously, even they get lost watching the show and they get lost reading the book. Like it's a pretty common, it's hard to condense it down into something um, that is easily digestible, I guess. It's hard to get the whole picture very quickly. I think that's
absolutely,
normal.
it's a lot to jump into for sure. I know both me and my wife felt that when we started this undertaking of the 14 books. I'm a little bit ahead of where she is, but it is a lot, and I didn't realize. I mean, obviously, watching a show, you're not getting the whole picture, the whole story, but when you get to the book, you realize just how much stuff is left out, and how much they had to condense down for the show. And really, like I know I've said this before, but watching season one, a lot of this stuff went right over my head. I wasn't even realizing what they were really showing me. And I've appreciated it a lot more the second time through than I did the first time. Uh, like, for instance, Perrin's character, the first time I went through, I really didn't care about him. To me, he was a back thought. I was really focused on Rand, Nynaeve, and Egwene. I thought Matt was the bad apple, or at this time thought, you know, I know we talked about that, but I just didn't really see where Perrin fit into all this. He just kind of seemed like he played the best friend role. But going back and watching this, like I think they did a really nice job with him and the casting. Uh, I haven't made it through the whole books, but so far for me, it feels like he's doing a great job.
I uh I said it a couple times already, and I just want to add on to that. The casting was done well. Like I don't think I don't think they could have found um, actors or actresses that could have done this any better. Um, like
Tom Maryland. So
I
for that.
mean, but that could be a decision by the producer to, the people that manage the show are what guides, what he wears and how he cuts his facial hair and even how he acts. If he had been given a script outlining Tom Maryland's portrayal in the book, he probably would have done that. He's got a good voice. He's probably got the chops to pull off, like the hunt for the horn, just pieces of it. Like they could have done it different. They could have written his character differently in the show. And my curiosity on that point is like why was he not in the Two Rivers at the start of the show? What happened? We've already got some divergence in the timeline, and him being in the Two Rivers is a big part of why the book played out the way it did. So with him not there, my only follow-up question is why wasn't he there? Why why was he stuck in Breen Spring? He didn't make it to the Two Rivers for some reason, and I'm curious about that. I really hope they address it in the show at some point.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. Definitely, from my perspective, seeing two seasons up to the current point, it's weird uh, seeing that now. So the first time through, I hadn't started the books yet. I didn't know who Tom Maryland was. To me, this was just some stranger that may come up in the story later. Just seems like an important person for them to meet in the city. But yeah, it's just weird how they threw him in this one episode, and seems like that's pretty much it. Like not trying to spoil anything, but thinking to season two, like I don't ever remember seeing him. Maybe he pops up. I don't know. Uh, but to this
Um,
point, it just seems weird for them to put him in here and then take him out. Um, and I'm curious about his backstory as well, because it seemed that he knew an awful lot about the IEL guy that was there and had a lot of respect for him
in
when
the
he was talking
interest
to.
in the interest of avoiding spoilers, I really can't I really can't say more than he wasn't always a Gleeman, if that that
Uh,
doesn't really help. But he's got a bigger backstory than just he hasn't been a Gleeman his whole life.
Gotcha. That makes more sense now. And that's
Yeah.
gonna be a good nugget I'm gonna chew on for a while. But it definitely stood out to me that from my impression watching this, I think that he had been with that Aiel man,
Oh.
the one who was in the cage, or in
All
some facet knew him.
Yeah. All I need to know from the show writers for the next season is whether or not that Yeoman in the cage was who I thought it was. Because if it was, I will be very upset.
Okay.
Um,
So
that's
I'm implying a lot off of that. Tom has a homie with the Aiel.
not Tom.
Uh,
It's not Tom, but they're
uh,
that it's just. I hope it's not him. I hope they didn't write that character out of the show. He's very very pivotal to the way the book story plays out. If they did get rid of him, I'll be sad. But I understand. You got a big cast. You got lots of things going on. But there is an Aielman in the cage in the books, and to have him written out of the show in the third episode, I would go back and be like, oh man, uh, this you deserve better than that.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. I've yet to get there in the story. But to my point that I was saying, I feel like Tom has some past relationship with that guy. I feel like you just kind of confirmed that for me in a roundabout way. Uh, I am curious to know their backstory. Would find it weird for them to spend much time on the show talking in depth about what was going on there, just because it's happened so long ago. I feel like season three bringing up an event in season one, episode three, especially not one that dominated the episode, just kind of a side piece, even a side piece to the event that took place in that town, would
Right.
be a bit weird. But to me, it's fascinating because, like I said, I feel like there's a connection there. What connection and what backstory, I don't know, because it was weird that it seemed like there was a certain amount of respect between them, but yet Tom was kind of working with Matt in a way, trying to figure him out, figure the boys out, and you know, Matt is obviously trying to get his way back home. He's currently
Right.
being corrupted by the dagger. And
Hmm.
maybe, I don't know, to me, just some of his personal flaws. But you know, Matt, his whole point was to go back and take this purple crystal or rock that he saw that they kind of showed a shot of in the beginning of the episode,
Right.
and whatever else the guy had, and Tom let him do it, which to me was kind of strange because first impressions, I feel like there's a connection, a background. Then Tom's letting him, kind of pillage a dead body, which was a little weird. Um,
Yeah.
but Matt had a redeemable moment, and I feel like in all of his bad moments, there's a glimpse of a redeemable quality in him. Like
Right.
he throws down. I'm doing this. I have sisters. I have people that count on me. Um, it's the situation he is in, not necessarily who he is. Except he is in an awful lot of those situations, seems.
Right.
But that stood out to me. What do you
Well,
think about that?
I mean, that scene I think is more to demonstrate Tom's character than anything going on with the Aiel. Since we don't know that Aiel's name, that scene is I think is trying to convey the kind of character that Tom has, which is he's very observant, picks out that Matt's from the Two Rivers.
Yeah.
He he has a sense of justice. So like he explains that that Aielman was basically in the wrong place at the wrong time, and you know he's gonna basically pay the Aielman his respects, and he even knows like the verbiage of what to say to an Aielman who's died. I think he goes through that with Matt, or does it away when Matt's not right there. And I think he tells him, "May you always find water and shade," and that's like a common Aiel saying. And I thought it was a nice touch. You know, you don't really get to see a lot of the Aiel until season two, and so to introduce them now, just to kind of put it out there that there are other people that look different, and I think that was kind of necessary for what's happening. You know, the Tom makes the point. You don't see red hair like that much outside of the IEO waste, and that's a good scene, I think.
I liked it.
I
I did
liked it
as
too.
well.
So
Uh,
I have all my pictures pulled up in order. So
yeah.
this is this is from the recap. This picture of Nynaeve. She's getting drugged by her braid, or right after the recap, the Trolloc is dragging her.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what you thought about that scene in general. You know, he's dragging her, and then he finds another Trolloc, and the Trolloc is
Yeah.
injured.
So that was something that stood out to me. Trollocs killing each other. Um, I didn't remember that from the first time. But it makes sense. They're animalistic.
Right?
But yeah, I just thought it was strange that they would be attacking each other. I didn't know. Haven't read too much in the books about them, obviously, to this point, but I'm assuming this is kind of how they are, a little bit like the Lord of the Rings kind of orc mentality, uh,
That's
where they do have
fairly accurate.
language, they do have some kind of I don't want I don't know if it's necessarily culture, um, but yeah, they're humanistic in some ways and animalistic in others, and that's kind of the vibe I got right there. And Nynaeve being the badass that she is, just gets up, no fear on her face, runs into the cave, jumps in the pool, and the trolley jumps in after, and she has her Assassin's Creed moment, which I thought was done very nicely.
Cinematically, it was a great scene. I love,
Yes.
you know, you got her breaking the water tension. Uh, you know, basically every assassin movie or show that has ever existed tries to recreate that vibe, and I thought it was well done. To circle back on like the Trolloc, like attacking a hurt Trolloc, they kind of touch on it, and even up to the point where you've read, but it's always been like kind of like a side comment, like you know, you never want to end up in a Trolloc cook pot because they'll eat anything, and they are very animalistic, and I think you know I think they demonstrated that well. Um, I would be more curious as to why they drug her off, and I kind of speculated yesterday that I thought maybe like the Trollocs had instructions to like capture her instead of kill her outright, and I thought that was interesting. Uh, but yeah, their behavior as far as like attacking someone who's weak before they attack someone who they perceive as strong is 100%. I liked it. I like that scene.
I do too. I'm starting to remember now loosely a comment I believe was made by Moraine in the book where she was talking about the people of the Two Rivers fighting and how so many days had passed by, and the Trollocs, they were saying that there was like all the bodies on the field or something to that effect until the Trollocs got hungry,
Right.
and then kind of hinted at them eating their own dead. So I stand corrected. They did talk about that in the book. But
They
yeah, I
do.
thought that scene was done well.
Yeah, they do it in a couple spots, and it's not really. It's like I said, it's more like a throwaway comment. It's just kind
Uh,
of like setting the tone for because this series is really grim. It's really very realistic. Like if monsters existed, what makes you think they wouldn't eat people or each other? Like they're monsters. That's their whole existence is to be terrible, and they are. And I thought, it's a nice touch to show that they're basically like, if you're weak enough, you're not strong enough to be alive, so we're gonna eat you.
yeah. Uh,
Uh,
a thing that stood out to me was in the next scene right after uh, she assassinated that Trolloc in the pool, uh, which was when Nynaeve had asked Lan why Moraine had left him, and Lan said she didn't. I did. And I didn't think I really caught that in the last episode or even in the book when they got split up. Uh, but talking about the show specifically, I didn't know that Lan had made a decision to leave the group and kind of take Moraine and get her to safety versus, trying to get everybody to safety. I guess maybe I missed that, but that just stood out to me. It
um,
didn't seem like a Lan thing, but I mean, I guess I know Moraine above all else for him, but yeah, I
so
don't know if
I
that.
mean, I can expand on that a little bit. There's
Yeah.
some things going on in the background, and what's part of what's happening, and I think this is the scene you're talking about, where you've got she's
Yes.
basically got the knife to his throat and saying, like why did she's putting the blame on Moraine, right? She's like,
Hmm.
why did she leave them? And then he's basically saying, it wasn't her, it was me. And I think this is part of his warder mentality, protecting his Aes Sedai, and B, his background. He's from the borderlands, and he's got you can usually tell by the leather cord around the forehead, and the way his hair is done up is very, and his they call it tilted eyes. It's just that Asiatic look in the eyes is usually a dead giveaway for Borderlands people. And people there take things like honor and like fault and guilt very, very seriously. Like he's gonna do the honorable thing before he does anything else. And to him, he's the one that brought up Shadar Logoth in the previous episode, and Moraine was hurt, and so he knew that she couldn't do the things that she would normally be able to do, and he brought them into Shadar Logoth, and then they ended up getting split up, and he's taking that. In my opinion, he's taking that responsibility onto himself. It wasn't her decision. She was hurt. She wasn't awake or aware, or she wouldn't have let me go in there in the first place. So I think that's what he meant by that, and I think part of that was just simply to deflect away from Moraine. He needs somebody to help her get better, and
Yeah.
he knows what some wisdoms are capable of, and that's what he's kind of working that path, I guess.
Makes sense. I didn't really think about it that way. Yeah.
I'm trying to find. I I supposedly put these pictures in order, um, but I clearly skipped over the part where Rand and Matt are walking in like the mountains, and I don't really think anything's going on there. They're just kind of talking. Like you can kind of see like Matt's selfishness enhanced by the dagger is kind of on display. He wants to go home and he wants to
Yeah.
basically abandon Egwene and Perrin. But
Yeah.
I
No, I
didn't
noticed that too.
I didn't really think that was anything worth rehashing. So my next scene that I have pulled up is this here where Lan is looking at looking at Moraine and Nynaeve, and I think this is the scene where he says, "I'll be back." Like he basically says, "I'm gonna I'm gonna leave," and then she like challenges him, like, "Why? What makes you think I won't kill her when you're gone?" Basically. And
Yeah.
I didn't know if you had anything to say about that.
About that scene specifically, no, I think that you covered it pretty well. Yeah, he dips out right there. Um, I think that Lan and Nynaeve in the show have both, at this point, are starting to realize that one another, that they're both similar, that they're both pillars of strength.
Right.
I think Lan's a very strong character. I think Nynaeve definitely is. They like going back and forth. Um, I think other than Lan's relationship with Moraine, they have a lot of similar qualities, Lan and Nynaeve. Uh, and I think that while they might not show it, and even in their interactions, there's a little bit of friction there. I think there's a little bit of trust as well.
Right.
Um, and also Lan is smart enough to know that obviously he can feel anything that Moraine does, and I think Nynaeve is smart enough to know if she tries anything, Lan is gonna hunt her down. So I think they both understand the situation. Um, and yeah, he goes off and he finds the other Aes Sedai at the edge of the cliff.
I actually think I skipped a scene, and I know what this picture is from now. This scene is when Nynaeve gets ready to put that
Oh
mixture
yeah.
in Moraine's wound, and she tells him, if you can really feel what she feels, brace yourself. And this was his reaction, was just like, and
Yeah, I think you saw maybe a hint of an eyelid flinch, but that was about it.
yeah, he's just like, okay,
He's a stud. He's a
yeah,
stud.
yeah, he is. And one of my, it wasn't a critique or anything, but one of the things I noticed is that in fact, the critique turned into a compliment once I really started to look at it. But in episode one, she gets that wound, and it's a pretty big wound. I mean, it's it covers a fairly large area, and um, the statement that they made was that the blades were from where all the evil forces are at. It's called Shale Ghul, and it was specifically like a blade called a Thakandar blade, and so it's like poisoned with. It's basically, there's some lore behind it, but basically, if you get hit by one, it causes a lot of like it basically kills you, and
Yeah, she's Frodo right now.
yeah, basically, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And in the books, it happens to Tam, and it takes Moraine like all of the power she possesses to heal it. And so I was like, okay, well, if the Warder Bond, if they're portraying it correctly, if it was a normal blade, she would be healed from that already because they kind of like share strength and share, whatever she's feeling, he's gonna feel, and but they support each other on a level that's not visible. And when you look at the wound, it's a lot better, but you can see that it's got like this pus that's in there. It's really gross, and the I thought it was a good demonstration that she was healing, but she only healed the physical wound, not the poison or anything, and that's what Nynaeve is trying to help get rid of now. And I think Lan sees that here, and I think that's why he ends up leaving when he sees that she is feeling better, but not enough to recover, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, he would feel it, right?
Yeah, he would.
You know.
The bond between Warder and Aes Sedai is honestly incredible. And trivia note: I don't know if you've heard this at all or seen it anywhere, but uh, in like the Age of Legends, when like you find out about the Forsaken later on, But in that time period, this water bond didn't exist. This is new. This is new to this age, and I find it fascinating. I thought it was a good thing to learn as I read, and I feel like whether that has implications later on is yet to be seen. But I did find it an interesting bit of trivia.
Yeah, no, that is not something I've heard before, but is really interesting. I'm curious about an Aes Sedai in multiple warders, because as we see in this season, there's a Aes Sedai that has two warders,
Yeah, Alana.
and I'm pretty sure they break it down. I haven't. It's been years since I've seen it, um, so I'll be interested. I think they touch on it. I don't know if they all fill each other or if just they fill the Aes Sedai.
It is, um, and some other book nerd that's more nerd than I am. In this case, the warders cannot feel each other, but they can feel their Aes Sedai.
Sure.
That's the way
Okay.
that particular bond works.
All right.
My next picture is a picture of the wolves chasing Perrin. I didn't know if you wanted to talk about more about Lan or just kind of. I'm just trying to go through like the pictures that I have once we've kind of exhausted the topic. Otherwise, I'll get distracted and start talking about all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I feel like we're pretty good on that scene right there.
Okay, I'm gonna not save it again and regret it later.
Yep.
And and so I've got a scene here. This is Matt and Perrin basically being chased by wolves through like the woods, and they end up in this the plains.
Yeah.
And like, what are your thoughts about it? Because I mean I
I've
kind of
got a
understand.
few.
Yeah, well let's hear it.
So the first time watching this without any understanding, the show had me fooled. I was like, this is weird. Or is this, do these beasts work for, the Dark One? How does this world work? I don't know. Past fantasies, novels, and things that I've gotten into, usually animals in the wild tend to be on the evil side.
Right.
So
Right.
I really thought the wolves were trying to get them. Watching it, and also later on in the show, you get more backstory to this and a better understanding. And now knowing that, plus going back and watching it a second time and paying attention to the details,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I'm surprised that Perrin and Egwene didn't pick up on it. I mean, I guess not. They've been running for their lives from everything for the past couple weeks at this point, so makes sense that they just think that it's a threat. But yeah, paying attention to the details, you can see, uh, the wolves obviously aren't coming at them. They're not nipping at them at this point. They've
Right.
licked Perrin's leg. You know, uh, but just curious what the higher purpose is. What are these wolves here to do? What are they trying to do? And definitely with missing characters from the book, it makes it a lot harder to understand
Yes.
um, this setting. So that was something that stood out to me. Um, but yeah, they obviously the wolves work, in a way to herd Perrin and Egwene to the tracks to the Tinkers.
Right.
So in a way, really save them.
Right.
They're
So you
starving, they're cold.
yeah, so you get kind of like some mixed signals. So like they're chasing them, but then they stop at the forest line.
Yep.
And they even asked the question. I got it up on screen. Why have they stopped? And then right before that scene, like when Perrin and Egwene are like sleeping in the plains or whatever, Perrin has like this horrible nightmare where he's in like
Yeah.
his forge, and there's a wolf eating Layla, like eating her stomach or whatever. And
Mm.
that's that I think that was a good bit of story building. You know, with things playing out the way they're playing out in this story, this guy with the glowing red eyes is deliberately trying to create mistrust between Perrin and the wolves, and without that missing person, this is exactly what would happen. This is there's some things that happen in the story to kind of, if not protect Perrin, then to try to like shield shield it just a little bit so that he's not. That's a horrible dream. That's like straight torture.
Yeah, I mean,
And
honestly, his wife just dies at his hand, and then now he's
yeah,
seeing the wolves chasing him, eat the belly out. Uh,
yeah,
I was curious. A thing stood out to me in the beginning of that dream is the camera, and this is a cinematic thing that I picked up on
mm,
was Perrin is waking up and he's walking down the hall and you see Perrin as he's walking down, but the camera flashes and where Perrin was, the dark one is with his eyes, almost hinting at he's
right,
the evil one. You're evil inside. You know, as he's carrying around this guilt, um, of what he did. That kind of stood out to me in the dream, trying to seed further doubt in his head.
right,
Um, and take his confidence of who he is away from him, um, because of the accident that happened. And then yeah, building the mistrust the first time around went right over my head. That dream worked on me because when he woke up, I was like, screw these wolves, kill them all,
yeah,
protect you and Egwene, and get out of here.
yeah.
But going back a second time, yeah, it was a really good sleight of hand that the Dark One used on him right there. That dream was really well done, I thought.
Yeah, I thought so too. I thought it was well crafted, and props to Mr. Glow and Red Eyes. It was clever on his part, and I think it was effective. I mean, obviously they're terrified of these wolves, so um, my next, there's more to those dreams than, like, I think Moraine even says it in like episode 2, I think, where they're all they had the dreams about the bats, and she's like, "There's more to dreams than you know," and then
Yeah.
she doesn't elaborate any further. Like that's true. There's like a whole thing with dreams that I don't know if or when they address it, but like that whole scene with Perrin and the guy with the glowing red eyes, that's a that's like a mechanism in the this world that is explained in pretty good detail much later on in the series. So like when you're first reading the books, you're like, what in the world is going on? Not even my dreams are safe. And then once you get through the series the first time and you start getting to that kind of stuff, you're like, oh. And then you go back to read it. You read the first book again, and you're like, I know what's happening now. That's interesting. And like it's just kind of like I'm glad that they're putting dream sequences in there. It's pretty crucial to like building the world the way it is.
Yeah, and it plays a much bigger role in season 2 to come, um,
Okay,
which I
yeah, I'm
feel like
fuzzy
they
on that.
still haven't fully uncovered it. I have a much better understanding after watching season 2 because the dreams are much more frequent and play a much bigger part. But you
Okay,
still they still kind of leave this veil in front of you where you don't know the full capabilities of it. You kind of see, and I don't want to get into it too much because that's going to spoil some things, but you can see some of the capabilities, but the show it feels like they're still trying to keep that veil in front of you so you don't know the full extent. And I
okay.
think that, that's probably done on purpose. I don't know the full capabilities. I haven't got to those parts in the book. Um, but yeah, it seems like the dreams are a wild space
I can't even
in this world.
I can't even make facial expressions because I don't want to I don't want to give anything away. Looks like my avatar's exploded again. Um,
All of them did except yours. You're just
except for mine.
massacring
I
the
guess.
masses here to watch.
I guess. Somebody had to go.
We voted, you lost.
I
Sort
think
of
I
just
should
bad
make.
luck.
I think I should try to get in there, and I think you can make like your own artwork, and I think I should make like some like you could be a Trolloc or something.
There you go.
I think that'd be cool.
Or a little IL with the like
Like with
black.
the little red hair and the black veil and
Mm.
all that.
Yep.
It'd be cool.
That would be.
I need. Yeah, I need some. I'm sure I'll get. You know, If I don't get a copyright strike from pictures, I might get it from little Aielman avatars running across the
That's
screen.
that's fair enough.
I could try it. Um, so okay, so I'll move that off screen. And I kind of got the map up in the background just so my desktop's not there.
Yeah.
But my next picture I took, this is all kind of stuff you kind of mentioned that you had, like a note or two. You had maybe if not a question, just something you wanted to like talk about. And this is one of the things that you mentioned was, I don't know if you
Yes.
can see that was this.
So I don't want to spoil anything, obviously, and I feel like in a lot of these episodes, it's going to be hard not to. I just want to pose the question of things that stood out to me. That right there is obviously important in some facet because they do some very nice shots of it. They point to it a lot.
Okay,
Um, I feel like cinematically, when I watch an episode, I always focus on what are the details that they're showing you because they never have to show you anything.
right,
Everything's got a meaning to some extent.
right.
Um, and I felt like a lot of focus was put on this rock. Like I said, it's been shoot since like 2020, 2021 since I've seen season one, so I've forgotten a lot of little details about this. Um, so if this has come up later on in the season, I don't remember.
I
But I thought it was interesting.
I don't remember. I don't think so. My personal opinion is that Matt just they're focusing on it because they're kind of like hovering behind Matt's point of view. That's what he's looking at, the shiny.
True, true.
They've kind of demonstrated that greed that he has.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I didn't know
Um,
if it was something that was, important to Ioman or if it had some kind of meaning or bearing on the person who owned it while they were alive.
it
Uh,
it does. It has some bearing on Aiel culture.
gotcha.
Um, they I mean, I won't get into it. There's nothing spoilery about this. This is actually like a topic throughout the book. One of like the running jokes is that the Aiel in general are hard to understand. So
Mhm.
um, it's fine talking about this kind of thing. So when they conquer somebody, like let's say they have lots of tribes or clans or societies or whatever in where they live, whenever they conquer somebody, part of their culture is to take what's called the fifth. So they take a fifth of everything that belonged to whoever it was they conquered. You don't take so much that they're destitute, but you take your basically your cut. A fifth is fair in their mind and in their culture. And so this could be as simple as, he could just be carrying that from another, a clan or something that he fought, and he just has it with him. It could
Gotcha.
be as simple as
Gotcha.
that.
Okay.
The thing I wanted to talk about, because when they showed the Ayuman first, it took me a minute because you when you're reading, you don't really have any visual thing to go off of. You're just
Yeah.
using your imagination, and I thought this was interesting. What threw me off was the this leather like um, chest piece that he has on.
Hmm.
Um, that's I don't think that's like book accurate, and I think that's part of what threw me off. I mean, obviously when I saw the red hair and all the wrappings around his arm and his head, I pieced it together pretty quick. But like the leather piece threw me off, and what I wanted to point out, because you were looking at the gem, what I was looking at is all the arrows, because when Tom eventually talks about the Ayuman, uh, they they don't say how many people died, and if they're trying to recreate the Aiel as like book accurate, that Aiel could like basically kill everybody in Brain Spring with very little problem, unless there were arrows.
Wow. Okay.
Like their martial skill is they're basically like, okay, so you have like a big army, you have like, let's say you have 10,000 people. Maybe out of that 10,000 you have like 1,000 dudes that are pretty good. You put them put them where the battle is needed most. They're kind of like your special group to really like bolster the lines or whatever. And then you have like that one dude out of 10,000 that's just an absolute, like, he's untouchable, right? He's made for war. That's that's the way the Aiel are described in the books. And I don't think we've seen too much combat with them yet.
No.
I think there's a little bit in season two, but I don't think it's like really on display. They're absolutely terrifying. Everybody in the world not in the Aiel Waste is absolutely horrified of being killed by them.
I'm just getting the vibe going through this that everybody is just absolutely terrified of everybody.
That's
You don't want to
accurate.
see an Aes Sedai roll through.
That's
You
right.
don't want to see a White Cloak come.
That's right.
You don't want to see Aielmen, and you
That's
don't
right.
want to see Trollocs. And even though the Tinkers are a bunch of hippies and peaceful, somehow they get a bad rap too, and they're a bunch of baby stillers, and they eat your horses and your dogs.
Yeah. Well, I
So
mean,
hide your kids, hide your wife,
it's
hide all your farm animals.
it's accurate. I mean, this, like, the vibe of the world that they live in, that
Mistrust.
it's grim. It's, the only thing holding a lot of these places together is that they have like a strong leader, or they have a
Mm-hmm.
strong military or something like that. There's a lot of crap that could fall apart in these like cities as we get to them. And a lot of times they come up with stuff to keep themselves distracted. I think in season two they kind of talk about like the game of houses. That's like basically just to distract them from how awful their life is. So I mean, anyways, that was my opinion on the gem. I just think
Yeah.
that's just something that he had, and Matt just saw it and said, "I want that."
Yeah.
Unless
No, that was
they,
a good
unless
point.
I, but if I see it again, we'll try to remember that.
I'm gonna be looking for it because Matt's got it.
Matt has it. Oh, that's interesting. He
Matt
did.
has it. Yeah.
He
He
did
he
take it,
he
right?
took that. He took that and he took I think he took like a little carved horse or something like that. Look
Mm,
pretty similar.
okay.
Um. So yeah, I'll be looking for that in the coming episodes.
So like the IELs, some of the IEL like to do like woodwork,
Hmm.
but it's like not taboo, but it's very wood is very scarce in the waste. So they
Hmm.
like a wood carving would be extremely valuable to, like, it makes sense why he has that on his person is what I was getting at.
Yeah.
Like wood carving is a rarity and it's highly treasured. Um, so I got my next picture pulled up, and it's good old Tom, my my best my best dude. He's one of my favorite characters ever.
Kind of guy that would be a groomsman in your wedding. It's just kind of guy you want around you.
Yeah, yeah, I like him, and he'd probably make the flight out to go do it.
Yeah, he would, wouldn't he? With a 6 months notice.
Ugh. So, anyways, we got Tom. I just wanted to point out that they did give him his patches. They're just a little small and on the
Yeah,
wrong
so
side,
that's like
on the wrong
I
side of
heard
his
you
face.
talking about that in the last episode, and that's a detail that I didn't catch. I didn't even realize Tom had patches until you started talking about it.
Yeah, it's 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 supposed to be like almost like sequence, like the way the patches are described in the book is like they're overlapping patches, so that when he does like a coat flourish, like when he kicks his cloak out behind him, it just like catches the eye. Like
Yeah.
that's the way it's described. And they set that scene up here by basically the innkeeper Dana saying like no one's allowed to sing except him. Like all
Yeah.
all eyes on him without him having to be like this really, like the cloak is pretty much ugly. Everybody recognizes it as a Gleeman's cloak,
Yeah.
but they're
Yeah.
usually like really really bright colors, and I think they have like sequins on them. Just basically anything to catch the eye, and it's really obnoxious, like the way they describe it. But all the kids love it. They recognize them on sight.
Yeah. It's just so weird to me how they just drop him in this episode, just willy nilly, out of nowhere, comes in, you know, essentially saves the day and dips.
Mhm.
You
I
know,
mean,
peace be with you.
he's in the next episode,
Yeah, like I said, I don't remember much going on past this point. I remember like big plot points from season one, but I don't remember
right?
finer details. And he's not a character that has a ton of screen time in this show. I do know that.
Well,
Um,
I mean, as far as that
I'm,
goes, I mean, there's a good reason why you don't remember him. I mean, he doesn't show up after season four, to my knowledge. So, I mean, episode four.
yeah,
So, um, like that makes sense. My theory on why he's here is my partial theory, and this is only based on what I know from the books, is that um, Tom has a history of getting in the drink when he's depressed. Like he likes to drink, and you kind of see that on display in the
yeah,
inn, where he's basically gets a cup, and Matt's like, "We didn't order that," and I don't know if you noticed, but uh, Tom is not the one that took Matt's coin. Tom
no,
took
no, he
took
got it
it off
back.
he got it off the guy that he took it from the guy that picked Matt's pocket.
Yeah,
And I didn't catch it the first time. I was just like, when did he grab his coin purse? But I
yeah.
thought it was
They even flash back to him with the camera, the thief, and he's like checking in his coat, and he's all confused, like
okay.
how do you get it away from me?
Right.
No, but I think that that's an interesting take. And looking back at it from that perspective, I can see how that makes a ton of sense. Because even the song he's singing is depressing.
It is.
He looks depressed. You know, he's singing about a depressing event. Um, you know, obviously he's burying an Aielman. Burying anybody doesn't seem like a fun thing to do. There seems to be some kind of connection there. Uh, you know, but it is interesting to see his character jump in and how perceptive Tom is.
Right.
Like I know you were bringing up how he's spotted Matt right out of the two rivers.
Right.
You know, the more I watch this back, I'm just like looking at Ran, and I'm trying not to bring it up, but I'm just seeing so many big flags,
No, it's
so
fine,
many.
and that's like a core, like first time readers, first time watchers of the show are basically going to react the same way. You got one guy in a village that looks 100% different than everybody else. He's tall, he's tall, he's white, he's got red hair. What is going on?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's really really on the nose the second time through. But the first
Yeah,
time you
yeah,
watch
it
it, you're
is.
just like, I mean, like the
Just a diverse town.
yeah, I mean, like the towns that we grew up in, they had everybody. It's
Yeah,
not, it's not, that doesn't strike me as odd. And like, that's one of the things that they try to drive home. Like, you can usually, in this world, you can usually recognize where somebody is from by their dress and how they look. Like, whether it's their skin color, like, there's a group called the, hold on a second. There's a group called the Athon Mier, the Sea Folk, and normally, like in the books, they're mostly described as very, very dark skinned. They're up
mhm,
on boats all day. They basically never leave their ship, and so they've kind of their appearance has changed over time to kind of match that.
yeah,
And but like that's not the world that we grew up in. So you read the book and you're like, oh, it's a white dude with red hair. Everybody else has got dark hair, dark eyes. I don't see a problem.
yeah.
And it's just that difference is just more noticeable the second time through.
Definitely, no, it stands out big time.
So before I do have a couple more things. I have like three more pictures,
Yeah.
and oh, four more. How many more do I have? I have several more. So
Okay, good.
I have several more. So I've got about 15, 15 minutes left, and then I gotta hop off of here. But just
Yeah,
wanted to.
yeah, no worries.
We're making a good pace. So this is another scene of the wolves. So right after the scene with Tom Maryland and his super sad song, which I think is about the breaking, um, we go to this scene where the wolves have been like keeping their distance, but basically like you're gonna go where we send you,
Yeah.
essentially. And I thought that was just another. This was a really hard shot to grab in the video. Like it's very very brief. Like Perrin looks back and sees the wolves, and then they continue. Like I don't even think Egwene looks back that time. I think it's just Perrin,
Hmm.
but it's just kind of like reinforcing like we're watching you, basically.
Yeah, no, and I think watching this, you can start to realize that there is some connection between Perrin and these wolves at this point. I mean, obviously he's the only one dreaming about him. They're all focused on Perrin. They're not showing up to anybody else. They're not licking Moraine's wounds. So I think the viewer can really start to see some kind of connection start to be formed here.
Right?
Um, Definitely, missing somebody from the book makes things a lot harder to figure out, but I like that. I find that fun in shows when they make it vague enough you really have to think on it to see what's going on. I like that kind of cat and mouse game with trying to figure out the plot. I don't want it just given to me laid in my lap. And that's why I'm appreciating a lot of this the second time around that I didn't appreciate the first time, picking up on these details, man, because they, like you said, they put it right on the nose, a lot of these things. But because you just don't see the bigger picture yet, uh, it just doesn't quite make sense. And this is a very big story to jump right into. It's not like some movie where you just have, two, three main characters and some supporting cast. This is a large story that's connected in so many different ways.
Right.
And the
Right.
show is taking liberties from the book, going off on its own divergent, um, and making its own path. And so I've enjoyed this very much going through the second time.
Yeah, me too. I mean, even going back to watch the show, I've already seen it once, read the books a bajillion times. Even now, I still like. I didn't think when we talked about this that we'd have anything really else to touch on. But I was wrong. I found this picture. You brought it up, but I was looking for it, and when I was looking for it, I found it a lot easier. I got the feeling that that's what was happening, but I didn't have like the scenes in my head exactly how that went down.
Oh,
And
them hurting?
yeah, I got the
Yeah.
sense of it, but I don't remember exactly what happened. And this is like drive the stake home. Yeah, we're watching you, boy. Keep going. And
Yeah.
so I thought it was a good like reiteration of what was happening with Egwene and Perrin. And a lot of those scenes are like really short, and that's why I'm kind of like moving on to the next picture.
Yeah.
Um, but so the next one I
I
have was this. You kind of talked about this when we were on the phone earlier, also, and it's we know now what's going on, having
hmm
having seen and watched. But to anybody that has not gotten past episode 3, why is Matt being such a dick? He's, to be fair, you're the one who said we'd do this. Classic dick move. So,
Yeah.
man, we know
Team
what's
get
going
Matt
on.
out of here.
Yeah, get him out of here. He's an
Yeah.
a-hole. I learned this morning that there was some drama about this character that plays Matt, this actor that plays Matt. I don't know what the nobody will talk about it, but something happened, and I think the casting change was for the good. But although I do think that Dick Matt was played by this actor pretty well.
Yeah, I agree. He definitely made me not like him immediately. Immediately, I did not like this guy. So he did his job well. Um, yeah, I think you can really see that, and like you said, what we know now, going through this the first time, this to me was just reiterating my initial thoughts of this bad egg right here. I was like, why is he here? Why are the other four even friends with this guy? I don't feel like he's brought anything to the table for anybody except problems. You
Right,
know, he's like the Pippin of the group. You know,
right. Well, he's supposed to be
so
the Pippin of the group, not the horrible. Pippin was a was a
Boromir.
was a prankster. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're thinking about Boromir. Matt
No,
should
I'm
be the
I'm thinking
Pippin.
about Pippin because Pippin, he just like he's not intentionally trying to like hurt everybody, but he just in a roundabout way screws things up. You know,
Yeah,
that's why
that's
Gandalf sends him off
the
uh,
way he's
to
supposed to be,
Gondor.
though.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I'm watching that as a viewer. I don't know that yet. So
Right,
for me,
right.
I'm picking up on those things, and the impression I get from him is I don't like him. Um, you know?
Well, um, I mean, obviously things are going to change pretty soon, but at this point, you kind of get this. He's maybe not irredeemable, but he's certainly got some pretty huge character flaws. And then in this very next scene with him, you see that, something is different because when he goes inside the inn, Dana is able to kind of crack him out of his shell, and he ends up like making a joke, and then the guys at the tavern or at the table make a joke at his expense, and he kind of loosens up a little bit. So like they're giving like this, I think they're giving a pretty good contrast between like, he's trying, um, like he's still himself, but something is going on.
Yeah. Thinking
Um,
internally he's getting, tortured by what
yeah,
he's carrying,
yeah,
you know.
it's
And
it's
I think he
true.
has to kind of be snapped out of that to come back to his true self.
Yeah,
It is. Sorry, go ahead.
a little bit of trivia, but he doesn't he doesn't go back to normal for two whole books. I mean, Matt is basically anytime he's on screen, it's awful for like two books. It's pretty terrible. Um, but I think they condensed quite a bit from like I think from what I understand is they're condensing a lot of like the political things that are happening in the world and compressing them into these first couple of seasons so that
Yeah.
they don't have to explore that too much. 'Cause I don't know if anybody would be interested in watching three books in a row about politics. I don't think that would land well. Um,
No.
I
No,
mean, I
that
would
would
watch
that
it
would
just
kill the
because
ratings.
I would watch it, but there's not a lot of magic being used in those books, not really. And they can take the interesting bits out and squeeze them into a season somewhere. My only like even now after like reflecting a little bit, I'm still saddened by the way they treated his father. Abel Cawthon is a good man, and his wife is a good woman, and the daughters are good kids. So I'm just I'll move on, but I'm still upset about that. I know they had to like paint Matt as like a scoundrel or a bad person, but that's I'm really upset that they did that to his dad. I
Yeah.
think I'll forever
Mm,
be that way. But I've got two
yeah.
more,
Let's go through it.
two more.
And I got
No,
a couple little nuggets to think on before we dip.
I lied. I got three more. Such a, let's see. Okay, so uh, this is the scene I was trying to talk about earlier. So this is the scene where um, so Nynaeve has worked on Moraine a little bit, and my personal theory here is that Lan can sense that she is getting somewhat better, but is not recovering the way that he needs,
Yeah.
and also that Like I think Nynaeve questions him here, right? Where she's like, why are you leaving me now? What makes you think I'm gonna, keep her alive once you're not watching me? And I thought that was an interesting like little bit. It's showing like that Lan makes a quick judgment call about somebody's character, and like he knows that she's not going to do anything now that she's treating Moraine as a patient instead of you know this woman that she's supposed to hate. He knows and is whatever however he comes to that conclusion that she's not going to hurt her.
Yeah, I think Lan was really watching her in some scenes before this when she was out picking herbs to uh start working on Moraine. He was watching her. He was also thinking about, how the hell did this girl track me? Uh,
Oh yeah, super salty
which
about
was really
that.
funny. Yeah, he was. He was not happy. And I thought it was just funny banter listening to her be like, "You can ask that question. I didn't say I was going to answer."
Yeah, and the going back to like the first scene where she's got the knife to his neck. He's like, I think the second question out of his mouth is, "How did you find us?" And like it's like all he can think about.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean, just like in relation to the book, that interaction is perfect in my opinion. That's pretty much how you don't get to see a lot of Lan and Nynaeve like interacting like without Moraine around, if that makes sense. And
Yeah,
so
without their adult supervision.
yeah, so this kind of exploration of that at this point in the story I think, is really good. I
Mhm.
can see these kind of like she's challenging him, and he's focused on something that like she wasn't even worried about. Like, what do you mean? How did I track you? And then she realizes, and now she's going to taunt him with it.
Yeah.
Anything to get a reaction out of him.
I like them two together. They're fun to watch. And as we know, there's some big liberties taken in this relationship between these two, and I'm here for it. I enjoy the way that this story goes with them. I'm excited to get into it in the
Yeah,
future episodes.
me too. I've got let's see. My next one is probably the one that threw me off a lot when I first watched it, and then I kind of thought about it and it made more sense. But the creepy Tinkers, why were they being so creepy?
You got creep vibes from them?
I mean, Perrin and Egwene are pushed into the forest. It's foggy, and then you hear hounds. You don't know that they're not wolves, and then these people come out
Mm-hmm.
of the forest and
It's very true.
saying a bunch of crap that you have no idea what they're talking about.
Just sounds like Burning Man to me.
Yeah,
No.
I don't know about this lady who plays like this opening scene where she's like talking about, do you know the song?
Yeah.
And like when she finishes the ritual, I don't know if it was done intentionally, but she looks tired of it too. Like she's just going with it. And I don't, you know, I wish they could have like directed her just a little bit better. They are all about that ritual, and it's important to them and it means a lot to them. So I kind of wish they would have like, had her like scold Aram, and this is basically like, this is the way we are, to kind of like almost like to help drive a wedge between the Tinkers and Aram, because you can kind of get like that. You can kind of get that vibe like right from the get go. Aram's like, yeah, they love their ceremony, and it would have been a nice touch to show how serious she took it. And instead, you kind of get like this feeling like she's rolling her eyes almost. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you caught that on the rewatch, but I mean it
No.
kind of stood out to me.
So I still don't fully understand her character. And obviously reading it in the book, it goes differently.
Right.
Um, it is unfortunate because I really like this actress right here. She was in another show, um, Outlander. I know that was a story that
Oh, okay.
you know I got you into. Yeah, she plays the aunt of James Fraser,
Oh, okay.
and she did
Okay.
a great job in that. But this right here, yeah, this scene kind of was underwhelming for me. The whole Tinker thing. I thought the son uh, played his part pretty well to the book, with his
Yes.
kind of upbeat attitude. Um,
Cockiness,
yeah,
very very arrogant, confident, and all that.
yeah.
I
But I
think
did.
I mean if you want my opinion, I think the difference is the missing person.
Yes.
The guy that I have circled with his hair up is supposed to be the one talking with the missing person. So I don't know why. Maybe because Egwene was in front, she thought she had to. I think her name is Isla. I think she wanted to talk to Egwene to make her
Mhm.
feel um, like more safe, I guess, like kind of motherly, and didn't want
Yeah.
to scare him. And it's different in the book. The Mahdi, or Rain is his name, is talking to somebody else, and this just plays out different. I don't know what the directing decision was to have her make the first interaction. Maybe that's the way they do it when maybe that's just the way they do it when they're out walking. You know what I mean? Like could just be
Yeah.
something explained away like that.
Point.
Um, my last picture before we get into like your notes is this final scene before Tom and Matt um, before Tom and Matt take down the Aiel from the cage is this right here. This so Tom walks up to Matt and drops a dagger into his hand, and I cannot tell you how many times I've wanted to see that in person. Like from the from the books to see this is worth a lot. It means a lot to see that. I love it.
That's an interesting point. So, I mean, I'm 30 chapters into the book, and I don't feel like I've had a single moment where Tom drops a dagger in his hand, or I feel like Tom is in any sort of hand-to-hand combat yet. I
Mm.
don't really feel like in the book you really get a full understanding of his capabilities yet. Because talking with you, I feel like there's a lot more to Tom than somebody at my stage would really understand. Tom
Well,
Tom is an interesting character, but you know,
I
a
mean,
clever hand-to-hand fighter isn't something I would take him for at this moment.
well, I don't think you're there in the book yet, and but you do see some of his hand-eye coordination when they're in Baralon and they confront the White Cloaks. Um, or maybe not the White Cloaks, but if we go back even further, if we go back to Tarn Ferry, you've got Lan is with the boys and is basically like correcting their posture to kind of intimidate the Tarn Ferry people. Like showing like Rand pulls his coat back to expose his sword, and Perrin loosens his axe in his belt, and then it's either in Baralon or at Tarn Ferry. Um, I'm pretty sure it's at Tarn Ferry. Tom basically like makes a dagger appear in his hands, and Moraine laughs, and like she they call it like a delighted laugh is what they say in the book. And so you see that very early on, and it is reiterated more as you go, so it kind of like drives that home. But I looked for this exact motion. I've been looking for it since I watched the show, and I'm glad I caught it on the second pass because it's good.
Yeah. No, I look forward to catching that.
um, so what are your notes? I'm expecting my wife to text me any minute and ask me why I'm not where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah, well,
So
I appreciate you saving me the last 15 seconds. I feel like we covered just about everything that I had wrote down. There was just a couple questions
okay,
that uh, I wanted to talk to, and honestly, they're just nuggets to sit on for a minute, because we don't have the time. One of them is I don't really understand what a Tarvarian is yet. I
Taviran.
know that we've talked, or Taviran. I know
Yeah.
we've talked in the past about that. That's the first thing, and the second thing is the dragon before Rand. So I know that this wheel works on a cycle,
Right.
and it repeats itself. But I know you were saying that if, well, I'm glad I just said the dragon before Rand. So great, we all know that Rand's a dragon now.
Yeah. Spoiler
But
alert.
yeah, sorry about that, guys. We'll edit that out. We'll just bleep my
I'm not
spot. But
not editing any of that out.
my my thing was, is there a dragon once per cycle, or is there constantly a dragon in the world?
So, um, your first question is what is a Taviran?
Yeah.
Okay, so um, you, so one of the premises of the wheel that is part of this universe that exists, this world that exists, is that balance is always going to be achieved. So, like, um, imagine like a set of train tracks, and you've got like the train wheels have like that conical shape, and they're made that way to keep the train seated inside the tracks, and so they can take a sharp turn, and the track will move, or the train will move some, but it'll eventually straighten back out. So think of it as like that, or maybe like a pendulum. So like let's say the dark one, or this thing with glowing eyes or whatever. Okay, so let's say he is changing things about the world. I don't know if they mention it in the show, but in the books, the weather is being changed. The weather is something is happening to keep spring from coming. The winter is unusually long, and it's starting to cause like food problems. And I think they do talk about it a little bit in the show. And so if the forces of evil are moving things one direction, the wheel will move things the other direction. It's striving for balance constantly. And I said that to set up the answer for your Taviran question. If you're Taviran, the pattern is using you as like a conduit to affect those changes. So um, like this kind of gets explained more as the story goes along. But like, okay, so for example, Taviran is like let's say I need a sword and I'm Taviran. I need a sword, and whoever is evil in the world, I need to fight them with that sword. Okay, so events will kind of unfold. I'll bump into somebody that knows a guy that knows where a sword could be, and it turns out the guy that he knows, the sword he was talking about was like a mastercraft sword, and and then it turns out that this sword was actually made by magic or whatever, like the one power. So that's kind of like the most basic way that Taviran works. And
Chosen ones. Keep balance.
yeah, to keep balance. And so like the more things are going horrible, the more the effect of being a Taviran like pushes through to whoever is Taviran. And there's an argument made that like everybody is a little bit Taviran, and I can buy into that because everybody's part of the pattern. And but just for example, there's a guy. Um, he's the reason that the group, the Shan Chan, he's the reason they exist. His name is Arter Hawkwing, and he was the most powerful Taviran that ever lived in this age. And like that basically meant that that he was able to pull massive armies. He was able to do tons of things that a normal person wouldn't be able to do because it was like the pattern was trying to fix something. We don't know what, but the pattern was trying to fix something is the
Yeah,
theory.
that's interesting.
So your other question is who is the previous dragon? Is that right?
Well, well, I was just curious about how it worked. So I know that obviously there was dragons before. There have been cycles before. Now, the wheel it works in cycles, and the dragon comes to balance the dark one, uh, to my understanding. So I heard you say previously if Rand was killed or the dragon's
Mhm.
killed for whatever reason, the will would just immediately instantaneously spit out another. Now, does that just mean that it would spit out another until it succeeds at its mission of balance? Or does that mean that there is constantly a dragon that is born in the world?
Um, so according to the books, which is what I'm drawing all this off of, um, like I think there is a conversation that happens in book two where, obviously we're in spoiler territory, right? So we kind of all understand that Rand is the dragon, and man, I cannot get my throat to stop being scratchy. Hold on a second.
Spit it out. It don't belong to you anyway.
So what I was, what the conversation is that um, at the end of book one, no, at the end of book two. So at the end of book two, like leading into the finale of book two, there are three self-proclaimed dragons. They've they've already captured Logain. Okay, so that's one.
I feel like you
And
might be spoiling something for me right here.
no, I'm not. You already know Rand is the
Okay.
dragon. This is just lore. It's lore.
Okay. Gotcha.
So Logain is captured already because
Yep.
that happened in the show, and then you've got three other people that have claimed themselves to be the dragon, while Rand is off doing whatever he does in book two. And if they address it in the show, what will happen is the scene where Moraine makes the dragon like thing that goes up around the tower. Um, that happened a little bit differently, but when Rand came to that realization or whatever, those other three Taviran either got captured or killed immediately, and the timelines line up perfectly. So you've got guys that can channel that are proclaiming themselves to be the dragon because they can channel, but Rand is the real deal, and the pattern would not allow a false dragon, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So
So
like,
Logain.
I mean, even if Logain, even if he had never gotten caught, as soon as the real dragon proclaimed himself to be the dragon and met the prophecies, which I don't think they talk about the prophecies a lot in the show, but as soon as Rand started meeting those, he was already on the path, and as soon as he, met the final one or whatever, which I don't know when he there's like a certain prophecy that he hits that once he gets to that one, the pattern's like, nope, this is it. This is the guy. And basically shuts everybody else down one way or the other.
It's interesting. I'll have to think
And
on that.
as far as like the scale of time goes, like the distance between the age starting, like the first age starting, and getting to where the original dragon starts, and then getting to where we're at right now is uh, it's 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 never clearly stated, but it's speculated that it's like above 10,000 years of time. Like it is a long time from basically like day one of the third age to where we're at right now. It's a lot of
That,
time.
I mean, it's got to be because the advanced civilization that you could see, um, just kind of in the background of the story as they go along this journey is really interesting. And that's something eventually that I want to dive into. I think that we should do a side video um, where we could discuss some of that, break down some of these people. You still didn't answer the question.
What question?
Is there a dragon all the time, or is
No,
it just
there's
once per
not.
cycle?
No, there's
Okay.
not. When I answered your question about them, like the three dragons in the books, like basically getting killed or captured, that was like having three dragons basically proclaiming themselves all at once was highly unusual. Like the the amount of dragons proclaiming themselves was like the gap gets bigger the further back in time you go. So like there's three proclaiming themselves right now. 10 years ago there was only one. 50 years there's ago there was one. 150 years ago there was one. Like you see what I'm saying? Like the further you go back, the bigger the gap between people proclaiming themselves as the dragon. Does that make sense?
Gotcha, but no, not really. Because I'm talking about the true dragon. I'm not talking about people proclaiming themselves. So I guess there's an aspect of this I'm not understanding. Um, but I don't want to keep taking up your time. I know that you got places to be.
No, I mean the answer is the dragon at the beginning of the age and Rand are the only two true dragons that have ever existed in this age.
Gotcha.
That is the
Okay.
answer.
So there's only ever been two dragons total.
Correct.
Okay. I thought that there was like a history of dragons, and I just haven't got through the history. I know because I knew of was it Louis Theron?
Lose Theron Telemon.
Louis Theron, yeah. So I knew about him, but I didn't know if there was more that I just hadn't heard about in other ages. But that makes sense now.
But the reality is that all those guys proclaiming themselves to be the dragon could have been the dragon. Like it gets real wishy-washy, but the reality is that the original dragon and Rand are the only dragons.
Gotcha.
Although like if circumstances had panned out differently, Logain could have become the dragon. It just didn't pan out that way. Like
Okay.
he didn't meet the signs, and so when Rand met the signs, all the other people that thought they were the dragon basically got shut down. Like to Viren and the way the wheel works is all about like odds and chances, which is part of why I like the theory that this is like a divergent timeline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'd be interested in to get into that, and I'd be interested in to know how the Aes Sedai knew that the dragon should be coming of age.
They addressed that. They addressed that in the show because it was one of my gripe points about how they brought it up. So they knew. They've known for 20 years that the dragon was coming.
Okay. I guess I missed that. I'll have to go back and catch it.
No, that's fine. I it's I think it's in I think it's in season 2. Yeah, it's
Yeah, gotcha.
I'm pretty sure. No, I think it's a scene with Moraine in the White Tower. That's probably where that happens. So coming up soon, like 5 or 6, episode 5 or 6. So we'll just keep an eye out for it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and pull my ending soon transmission or transition up. Fortunately, the thing I had to do was delayed by a technical difficulty not on my end. So now you can't see my finger, but I pointed at the camera. So yeah, it was a technical difficulty that was not my fault. So this is great. I enjoyed our conversation.
I did too, man. It was fun. I look forward to doing was it episode 4
Episode
next? Yeah.
4. I want to do that either. I think tomorrow is probably too soon. I probably depends on what your availability is. I might be able to do it Friday or Saturday.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. I just let me get through these finals,
Yeah.
and I'll let you know what I got going.
Okay. Need to
All
save
right,
your
buddy.
need to save your profile picture so I don't have to go find it again.
Yeah, I like that.
I think it's good.
Well, all right, man. Well, enjoy your night. I appreciate anybody that hopped in this conversation with us at some point in the future. It's fun.
Yeah, yeah. We've been getting some views on YouTube and Twitch. I'm not really sure where those are coming from. I don't know if it's just us watching ourselves. Uh, by the way, Twitch is very nice. They're like, oh, you had like 5 people look at it, or you only had one less person than last time. YouTube is absolutely brutal. They're like, your video sucked. Nobody
Yeah.
nobody watched it.
Twitch breaks it to you softly, and
Mm,
YouTube's just like, stop what you're doing. It's not working.
yeah, I mean, basically, they're very on the nose with their analytics and stuff. Like, if I go there right now, let's see, it says, we go to YouTube Studio. Um, like, basically, it says you suck.
Hell yeah. That's us, baby. Starting from the bottom.
That's right. It says, well, it says, hey, this is different. Average view duration has gone up.
There you
Mm,
go.
it
You
went up.
keeping them.
It went up to so like the typical view on my videos is 6 to 27 seconds, and the even though I only got 2 views, the average view duration was 13 minutes. So I'm improving.
There we go. I like to hear it.
Thanks for
We're
watching my
catching
video.
them, and now you're keeping them. Little shake, little bake.
Yeah, I need a stepbrother's
All
picture for next time.
right.
All right.
All right, man. Well, I've got to go,
Yep, me
but
too.
I appreciate it.
All righty. Bye.